Greetings, folks. Richard Fulmer here, and another Richard's Rock Rambles for you. So, we're going to carry on looking at our albums that are 50 years old in 2025. Another 4 albums today, and some pretty notable ones as well. So, let's kick off, shall we? The first one we're going to have a look at is a band that was formed by Ritchie Blackmore after leaving Deep Purple, after, what was it, Stormbringer. I think he just had enough. He wasn't happy with the direction that the band was going in, so he decided, what the hell, I'll form my own band. And just to avoid any confusion, he called it Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, just to make sure you knew whose band it was. So there we go. That's the debut album from 1975, Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, with that sort of Wizard of Oz type cover. There's the yellow brick road and there's the rainbow. And this would become a sort of a stage prop, if you like, at the back of the band, in the back line, or just behind the back line, you'd have this massive rainbow. So who did he get in the band? Well, obviously he was there on guitar, and he got Ronnie James Dio. That name should ring a bell, of course, on vocals. He was with the band Elf prior to joining Rainbow, and of course he would go on to Black Sabbath and have his own band. Sadly, no longer around, but wow, what a singer to get for your band for your debut. Gary Driscoll on drums, Craig Gruber on bass guitar, and Mickey Lee Soul on piano, mellotron, clavinet, and organ. Those last three guys would only last for this album. Rainbow Rising, the next album, which was a lot better in my eyes, had a totally different lineup. And Ritchie Blackmore, as it was his want, he would change lineups all the time. So the only guy that would last from this lineup would be Ronnie James Dio, of course, besides Mr. Blackmore. So there's Ritchie with his trademark Strat, and there's a very young Ronnie James Dio, and there's a couple of shots of the rest of the guys in the band. So all important tracks. Some of these would become big hits for the band. I'm not too happy with the production of this album. It's very sort of low in the mix. It doesn't, grab you straight away. It doesn't hit you in the face kind of thing, which is what a hard rock record should do. But anyway, some of the good tracks. Man on the Silver Mountain, where you can hear Ronnie James Dio in full cry. Some great guitar work, obviously, from Mr. Blackmore. Self-Portrait, Black Sheep of the Family, and Catch the Rainbow, which was more of a mellow kind of track, with some great singing in it from Ronnie. Then you got onto side 2, Snake Charmer, The Temple of the King, If You Don't Like Rock and Roll, 16th Century Greensleeves. Now here Mr. Blackmore's always had a love affair with sort of more pastoral kind of music, bit of classical influence, and this was his take on the famous Greensleeves. Called it 16th Century Greensleeves. That's quite a cool track. Bit of an oddity for the rest of the album, but anyway, it kind of works. And the last track, Still I'm Sad, which I also quite enjoy. And who was this produced by? All songs written by Ritchie Blackmore and Ronnie James Dio. Ronnie James Dio was also a great songwriter. Produced by Ritchie Blackmore, Martin Birch, that's a name from Deep Purple days, and Ronnie James Dio. So that's the first one from 1975 that's turned 50 this year. Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow Rising. There we go. Not Rainbow Rising. Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. See, I haven't had enough coffee yet this morning. The second one we're going to have a look at was actually the second album of this band. First one was a kind of a Zeppelin tribute album, if you like, very much in that vein, still finding their feet. There were a few good songs like Working Man and a few other tracks. But this one from Rush, Fly By Night, with that great cover of the owl, this is where they really took off. And why did they take off from this album? Well, because they had a guy by the name of Neil Peart, or Neil Peart, I'm never quite sure how you say his surname, on drums. He would also become their main songwriter, great lyricist. And so he was there obviously alongside Geddy Lee on bass, classical guitars, and all vocals. And in these days, he still had that really high-pitched vocals, which does annoy some people. I grew to love it. And Alex Lifeson on electric guitars, 6 and 12-string acoustic guitars. So there we go. That's Neil Peart, very young there in the middle. There's Alex and there's Geddy Lee, with their long hair back in those days. So there's some excellent songs on here that would become live staples. Anthem. And as soon as you hear that track, you can see what a difference Neil Peart's made. The They didn't have an identity on the first album. Like I said, they were sort of doing Zeppelin type stuff. But this was the real Rush. It would be for the next couple of albums, this particular style. Best I Can, Beneath, Between and Behind, and my favorite track on the album was some brutal bass guitar from Geddy Lee, as well as some amazing drumming. It's a song that's got 4 parts. It's called By Tor and the Snow Dog. And there's some effect that he gets on his bass guitar. It's almost like it's growling. It's amazing stuff. So the 4 pieces are At the Tobes of Hades, Across the Styx, Of the Battle, and then Epilogue. So that makes the whole of side 1. So you've only really got 4 tracks, but as I say, the last track's got 4 different parts, and it's about 9 minutes long. Then you get the title track, Fly By Night. Did I mention the name of the album, Fly By Night? Anyway, that's the title track. Making Memories, Rivendell, and In the End. So that's another only 4 tracks, the longest being 6 minutes 51 seconds. Rush's Fly By Night. I love that cover of that owl. Those big feet there. Claws, I should say. So yeah, another one from 75 that is a must-have. Then we got 2 ladies from Seattle who were part of a band called Heart. And their debut album from 75 called Dreamboat Annie. And there were some great tracks on here as well. And as far as debuts go, this one ticked all the boxes, I think. Great production, excellent songs, lots of melody. They could rock out when they wanted to. There's nothing else to show you in here. This is a very ordinary CD. I know it has been reissued. But this is just the standard one. That's Ann Wilson, the vocalist, and that's Nancy, her sister, who played guitar and did backing vocals. Ann Wilson has always been my favorite female vocalist. I think she's right up there with people like Beth Hart, but she's been around for some time. Still going strong today, although she's had a few health issues of late. So what are the big tracks on here? Starts off with Magic Man, which is kind of a rocker. Really nice stuff on there. Dreamboat Annie, which actually appears 3 times on this album. So it's part of a trilogy, if you like, a 3-part thing. The first one is Dreamboat Annie Fantasy Child. That's only a minute long, minute and 10 seconds. And then the next hit that came off this album, Crazy on You, which they would play for many years afterwards. Soul of the Sea, and then Dreamboat Annie again. White Lightning and Wine, which is a nice track with some cool groove to it. You know, these guys could... Yes, they could rock out, but there was a lot of Zeppelin influence in this band. They were big fans of Zeppelin. They went to go see them a few times. In fact, back in the early days, I think they got to meet them. And there's an interview with Ann Wilson where she says she was so starstruck when she spoke to Robert Plant, she couldn't really get the words out. It's like, Robert. Anyway, so you can hear the influence of Zeppelin in this music. Lots of light and shade. So that's White Lightning and Wine. Love Me Like Music, I'll Be Your Song. Sing Child, with some great backing vocals as well from Nancy Wilson. How Deep It Goes, and then Dreamboat Annie Reprise. That's the last track on the album, and that's 3 minutes 51 seconds. Great debut from Heart, and they would go on from strength to strength after this. Little Queen and a whole bunch of albums that came out afterwards. Little Queen, by the way, has also got a lot of Zeppelin. They play mandolins and all sorts of things on there. Worth getting. And then finally, our second look at albums that have turned 50 in 2025. And I'd forgotten about this from 75. A band from Wales. Yes, talking about the band Budgie. With that great cover there. I think this inspiration for this cover came from Planet of the Apes. Except here you've got Planet of the Budgies. Budgies riding horses. Go figure. Lots of detail in that cover. You know, that's what I love about some of the covers from the 70s. There we go. So who's in the band? Well, you had the guy called Tony Borge on guitar, Burke Shelley, who was the vocalist, another high-pitched vocalist, similar to Geddy Lee from Rush, and he also played bass, and a guy by the name of Ray Phillips was on drums here. Let's see if I've got that right. Yes, Ray Phillips was on drums. The drums still, they did change around quite a bit in the first few albums. This I still got as a... There we go. How's that nice picture disc there? This was a sort of a limited edition. Some of the albums that came out, I was lucky enough to get this. And this was on the Repertoire label, that great German label, which has got some amazing stuff on it. Not a very long album. There's only 6 tracks on here, but some of the tracks are fairly long. So, Breaking All the House Rules is the first track. Let me just have a sip of coffee here. Like I said, I need coffee. There we go. Breaking All the House Rules with some. What I like about this band is sometimes they would deceive you. You know, their tracks would start kind of slowly, and you think, "Oh, this is kind of mellow," and what's the big fuss about Budgie? You know, where's the rocking stuff? And then they would hit you about halfway through. And some of the tracks on here do that. Slip Away, also more mellow track with some great vocals from Burke Shelley. He almost had a bit of a soul thing going in some of his tracks. And the next track, Who Do You Want For Your Love? Now that's one of those tracks that starts off one way and then just goes crazy. I Can't See My Feelings, I Ain't No Mountain, which I think was a single taken off this album. And then for me, the best part, very clever play on words here, Napoleon Bonaparte 1 and Napoleon Bonaparte 2. Get it? That's also a track that's got like 3 or 4 different parts to it. Almost prog-like in some ways. And yeah, some brutal riffs, some Tony Balls. You know, some of the early Budgie stuff was as heavy as anything Sabbath was bringing out in the early 70s. So if that's your bag, that's a band to check out. So there we go, Budgie. And Bandolier was the name of the album. I don't know if I mentioned the name. As I said, this is on the Repertoire label. So that's Ray Phillips over there. There's Tony Balls, and there's Burke Shelley. You look like somebody's granny or a school teacher with those glasses that he used to wear. They didn't go down well in the States, and I think partly because of the image thing. You know, in America at that stage it was all about the sexy look and everything. Not these guys. So there we go. That's another 4 bands or 4 albums that turn 50 in 2025. We'll do another couple in the next few videos coming up. Please, guys, if you haven't yet, down below, subscribe. It will be great for the channel. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy the video. And any comments, more than welcome. Do you have these albums in your collection? If so, what do you think of them? If you don't, worth checking out. Look after yourselves. It's been brutally hot here in Cape Town. Yesterday was a real stinker. Although today we're expecting a little bit of rain. So hopefully that does come just to cool things down a bit. Because this month and the next month for us, January, February, are the hot ones here in Cape Town. Take it easy, guys. I'll catch you soon. Bye-bye.